Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our latest webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our roadmap to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Kieran Shew, who is Commercial Manager at icelolly.com, by Lisa McAuley, who is the Managing Director of B2B Businesses at dnata Travel Europe, and by Gary Lewis, who is the Chief Executive of the Travel Network Group. So welcome to you all. We are meeting today just days after yet another announcement from the government. Obviously we're in lockdown 2, but that came with an announcement around support for businesses. And I guess the major one was the extension of furlough. I'll come to you first, Lisa, because we've spoken before about how you've been managing your employees through this. And I know you were about to use the job support scheme that was coming in and you were working that through. And then, of course, it all changed. So tell me where you are with the new announcement.
Yeah, sure. You're right. We looked at the JSS scheme and found something that would work for us. And you know, I think this has already been said that you can spend a week analysing the scheme, a week trying to organise your workforce accordingly, and then a week communicating. So we were all set to do that at the weekend, and then of course there was the announcement on Saturday with regards to lockdown and furlough scheme would be extended. But at that point it wasn't extended as it has been done this week. So, you know, number of texts over the weekends and calls on Sunday. And I'm sure we'll come on to talk about this in terms of how your employees are impacted about this from an emotional point of view. But we said, look, we will use the furlough scheme. It's flexi furlough, so that's a good thing. So it still enables me to bring back the workforce that I needed to, but on a flexible basis. So it's almost like rebadging JSS to furlough, but the furlough gives you greater savings as a business. So yep, we are using it. And then the news this week that it will be extended even further is even better. I think, you know, it's buying businesses some breathing space. But what I would say is that, you know, I genuinely don't think that furlough should be used to mask more profound problems that might exist within your business from a cash flow point of view. So but it's certainly a welcome news. Okay,
that's a good point, and I'd like to come back to explore that a bit further. This, you know, because obviously you're talking about it having been extended out now till March. Gary, you represent an awful lot of travel agents in the UK. You know, over the last few months, agents have been saying furlough's great on one hand, and it has been a lifeline in many ways, but it obviously doesn't really solve the problems for agents because they've had to be working to process refunds, etc. So has this been, you know, this extension initially just for this lockdown period and then the announcement to March, is that welcomed by travel agents?
Well, I think yes, absolutely, it is welcome by travel agents, but obviously individual members and individual agents are in different circumstances depending on what they've structured and what size and scale and resource they have. So it depends on what size, what teams they've got and where they are as a director of that business. Are they self-employed? Have they done things with dividends? What have they done historically, and how they're exposed on that? It has to have certainty as an industry this whole time, and thank goodness the government has finally listened on this. Given this certainty till the end of March is brilliant. And also at the same time they've announced the furlough, they've announced the self-employed 55% to 80%. So that's also had a help and a direct impact. Also, they've allowed people that weren't on furlough before to now come onto furlough. So that flexibility means that we've got people that couldn't gone onto the old furlough scheme because they hadn't been on it at a certain point in time, but we've now been able to rest them, bring people who have been on this furlough the whole time back. So we've been able to bring the business together a lot more by merging teams and having people doing 50% of hours because of the flexible furlough. So let's not, you know, the reality is there's a huge amount of debt layered on our members now through loans, through the loans, the COVID loans. Grants have been useful. The announcement of being able to go and apply for grants backdated to August for certain retail shops, as also was one part of the announcement. So that will give real cash into their hands. So anything that protects costs and gets some type of cash has got to be welcomed. And, you know, fingers crossed that that will get enough of the resilience through to March, April next year, when we hope at that stage the testing regimes and the vaccines will have had a huge impact.
Okay, all right, good to hear. Now, let's bring in Kieran. Kieran, you, I think, have been on furlough since March, but you were due to come back on the JSS, now been re-furloughed. Just talk us through your situation. Tell us what's happened with you and how you feel about it.
Yeah, listen, it's been a whirlwind, 7 months, like it has been for the rest of the country, and especially this industry. I'm very thankful for this scheme. This scheme has kept me, financially secure, and it's helped me and mentally knowing that there is, a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know a lot of people in this industry have gone through really hard times, lost their jobs, working countless hours. So, I understand that I'm in the lucky boat, in a bad situation, I suppose. Our company went through a little kind of a reformat, restructure kind of in September time. So there was a lot of uncertainty during this kind of period from March up until September on when we were coming back to work, and if we were coming back to work, of course. Once we then found out that I had a job to come back to, and that this is the role that I'd be coming back to, we were pinpointed as a November 1 start date. So yeah, in that time, it's kind of, okay, another couple more months, let's keep going, it's almost over. I got another part-time job, just to kind of keep my sanity going and everything. And
so you worked at a golf course, didn't you? But
I did, yeah.
Obviously not for financial reasons, but you just wanted to have human interaction and something to do outside in the fresh air.
As everyone probably knows me, I am a bubbly kind of human interaction kind of person. I thrive off that, and that had been taken away from me. I was getting to a point where I was forgetting long words, and I was having conversations with my girlfriend. She's like, you do realize you should be using that word and not that. I'm like, oh my God, I know. So I went out and I got a job at a golf course because I was playing a lot of golf. So I'm like, this would be a great way to spend my spare time. So I did my last shift for them on Friday, had a bit of a celebration on Friday night with my girlfriend, coming back to work, coming back to travel on Monday. And then obviously the announcement happened on Saturday night. So
and you tell me that you literally logged on for an hour. And
yeah,
then
I was logged on for at 9 a.m. on Monday morning. Had a company meeting, and around about 10:30, and we were told that we were going back onto furlough for at least until December 2. So obviously the Chancellor yesterday announced that it's going to go on to March. I mean, it feels like after September, there was certainty on knowing that, okay, this is great, I'm coming back to work on this date, rather than the uncertainty of July, August, etc., not knowing. So it kind of, as an employee, feels like I've gone back to there, because I don't know whether it's going to be extended to January, March. It's quite bizarre. And I've been furloughed from my golf course job as well. So they've closed as well, obviously. So that's really, it is what it is. But yeah.
Okay, well, let's come back to talk to you a little bit more in a second, because I've read some of your tweets. So I want to pick up on those. But Lisa, you just mentioned there about the emotional side of things for your employees. So how have you been, handling that? How have your employees taken it?
So on the Sunday, my first reaction was to my team, my direct reports, that look, let's not do a knee-jerk reaction to this announcement, because we had planned everything to the nth degree for those return from furlough workers, and a huge amount of work went into that. Remember, I'm still in project phase as well because of bringing the two businesses together. So everybody had a role to play in that. So I said, let's keep it as a BAU with the intention. Let's regroup on Monday and then let's assess it, which we did do. Now, we kept a handful of people. We extended their furlough as Kieran found himself under. And then we returned a number of people back, as I said, anyway, because we were utilising the JSS scheme for certain departments where we were bringing people back in 3-4 days a week. So on Tuesday of this week, actually, we were bringing all of the trade partnership managers, so the key account managers, all of Nick's teams back. So I joined them on a video call and just had an hour session with them, welcoming back. And we've had drop-in meetings. So firstly for the management layer, and then also for return from furloughed workers, because for many organizations, I'm sure they're all in the similar positions, that if you left the business in March and you've had a restructure, or there may have been so much automation that's gone on within that period of time, you're almost starting a new job within a new business. So we've done a lot of work with regards to making sure that people who are returning from furlough really felt and understood where the business is today, and you don't want that to go to waste. So, but one of the questions that one of the trade partnership managers asked me was, with regards to the news on furlough, will you put us back on furlough? And as I've said before, it would be disingenuous of me to say, no, I'll never do that, because you just don't know. And actually the volumes at the moment just aren't there to support an entire workforce as you would need them. So for me, furlough is something that businesses should be utilising. But you know, we restructured already. So I know that all of the jobs that I have within the business are viable jobs. And I think, you know, it's taking those early decisions on your structure means that now you're in a position to really manage the business accordingly. And look, the extension of the furlough, it potentially signals that we're going to be in this scenario for quite some time.
Well, I mean, that's a good point, isn't it? I mean, everyone is speculating whether this lockdown will go on longer than December the 2nd. Gary, what's the mood like amongst your membership? You know, building on what Lisa said, you know, the sort of emotional side. I mean, you say that these things are good news. Of course they are. Anything that is helpful, you know, we're going to grab with both hands. But I mean, does it, you know, is it going to save people? You know, people are talking about get through the winter. Have you got enough cash to get you through to the spring? What's the mood like?
So, you know, we talk about the emotional temperature of our members every single day. We are having conversations with them every single day, either in group Zooms, individual Zooms, feedback, email responses, all the engagement conversations we're having. And it's really dark. I mean, let's be under no illusions. And this week has felt darker than most because we were going into lockdown, and it does feel a little bit like we've reset ourselves back from that first lockdown. But we know the consequences of where we are. We know the reality that our industry is in absolute dire straits. You know, average trading is around about 7-8% for our membership at this particular point in time. Even looking for next year, you know, outside of next year, we have members that we're saying do not do bookings if you're the principal between now and March of next year, because there's so much uncertainty until the vaccine comes in. So I think there's an absolute reality of everybody understands that if you just look at the bigger picture, it is absolutely dire. You know, Australia is saying they won't do international travel till 2022. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's what we've heard. So, you know, you just got to look at, from an individual employee sat at home on furlough, when they're worried about their jobs and their business, the businesses they're reporting into, they should be looking at the world at large and understanding we are in the times we're in. But we all know that. So they're dark. But what we're saying to them is, look, you have to be brutally honest about where we are, and are you sustainable? Is this furlough going to give you cash? Can you get the grants? Have you got loans that you've secured in the early stages? If you haven't, go and get them. They're still able to be secured. And in some ways, some of the smaller businesses are have more ability to be robust and resilient, and those bigger businesses have the capacity to go and get access to the furlough that controls their cash. If we believe that the vaccine's coming down the road, and if we believe the testing regime is going to work, if we believe the global task force conversations that we're having with government are saying that as long as the industry can demonstrate testing works through the airports, they'll be willing to engage with quarantining coming from 15 days down to 5 days. I think these are really good things that are going to happen. And lockdown or not lockdown is really tough mentally, but has no immediate impact upon the survival of businesses. We know
it's about cash, isn't it? So
it's about,
actually there was good news out of Oxford, wasn't there, around a vaccine, possibly by Christmas. I know it will take a while to roll out, but I mean there are seemingly positive you know, announcements coming out. But I guess for a travel agent, even if you said book loads into 2021, 2022, it's about having enough cash to make it through.
Absolutely. And they understand and know that. And it's been really clear that thinking correctly and getting yourself in that dark place is working out, as Lisa said right at the beginning, is it sustainable? Where can you be? How can we as an organisation help protect you from that? And what does it look like in January if nothing travels? What does it look like in February if nothing travels? Work it out and know exactly where you are. And then you can make the clear decisions on what the priority becomes that day to help you survive.
And just, I asked this the other day of a travel agent, Gary. There are some people saying, just hibernate, hunker down, get all your costs as low as possible and just get through. And then there's other people who absolutely think that's the wrong strategy. And they're saying it, I mean, I think Miles Morgan said it's the fastest route to oblivion to do that. And you've got to sell your way out of this. You've got to be proactive, doing as much as you can on social media, getting your staff in and doing stuff. So where are you? You know, what's your advice to your guys?
Listen, my advice is both of those things are right. And Miles Morgan is in the position of his scale and his size, as we have other members who are of scale and size. They're facing different challenges depending on where they are that day with their business and their cash and their ability to mentally and physically get through this crisis. So, you know, absolutely, if you've got the cash flow that you can invest to drive sales for long-term future, and you'll know you're going to survive for that money to flow back in June, July, August, and you think that's going to help you, brilliant. But that doesn't help you survive now if you spend money and run out of cash by January. So the both things are right, but you have to be honest about where your business is right now. And all we've been obsessed about in the last 7 months is you are an individual business. You have to be able to make the right decisions for your business and understand what is the critical thing you should be doing now to survive the next week, the next month, then the next 6 months, then the next year. And we've been working in that state for this period of time. And that's why furlough is brilliant, but it doesn't help everybody. That's why obsessive CBIL loans is brilliant, but it doesn't help everybody. The grants are brilliant, but it doesn't help everybody.
Yeah, very, very good advice. Kieran, I wanted to just pick up on a tweet that you put out this week. You said, I'm really grateful for furlough. We've discussed that. But this is getting ridiculous now. You said, how can we keep pushing the can down the road? The effect it's having on mine and other people's mental health needs to be taken more seriously. Now, you just said you outwardly are very jolly, bubbly. That's how we know you, and it's great. But, you know, even people like you must have had times when you are, you know, what do I do each day? I know you got out and got that job. Now you haven't even got the second job. So what, you know, like,
it's
feel
funny
comfortable.
because,
tell us how you feel.
Yeah, it's funny because, as I said at the start, we need to put things into context. And, you know, I know a lot of people have lost their jobs and a lot of people are in worse situations to my own, but I can only suppose reflect on my own experiences, my own things that have happened. I mean, we've got two crises in this country at the moment. We've got a public health crisis and we've got a financial crisis. And I think within that public health crisis is mental health problems as well. You know, you watch the news every day and you see, you know, coronavirus, we know this is a crisis, but it's the mental health as well. It's the not knowing, it's the what ifs, it's the, you know, the pity parties, why me, why this, you know, kind of thing. And, you know, and it's easy sometimes to fall down that tunnel. And then, you know, it's good sometimes you get a reality check. I live by myself in a 1-bedroom flat. So, you know, there are days sometimes where, I don't have much human interaction with other people, which is very hard for me personally. I have a support bubble that I leverage on, which is great and which has helped me. But I suppose it is for us and the people I think that are on furlough, while this furlough scheme is fantastic and as Lisa and Gary have said, it is the right thing to do at the moment. But we've been told since kind of March time that it's going to last for 3 months, then you're back to work. Then it's going to last till October, then you're back to work. You know, and I know that all these green shoots are coming out and everything, but mentally, it's can I get excited about December 2? You know, do I have that within me again? You know, to kind of get up on December 2 and sorry, it's another month. And how do you then deal with that? Is that okay, you know, brush it off and keep going? You're in a better position than unfortunately other people are within this industry and within this. But it's the not knowing that is hard. And and you kind of, you don't know, for me personally, I don't know what other people feel like. It's, do you feel like a part of a business, and have you felt like a part of a business for 7 months? You know, I think at the...
Have you? I mean, how has Ice-Lolly, you know...
Listen, listen, the support that Richard and Shew have given me has been fantastic. It really has been. I've been in between Stew's teeth whitening and golf outings. He gives me a call. I speak to Richard at least monthly. But
he's going to kill you for that now. You realise it? He'll kill you for saying that.
My note taken. Listen, but they can only help me as much as they can, right? You know, at one point they didn't even know whether we were going to be coming back into the business, you know. So you know, if I'm asking about trading, I'm asking, what are we doing with these clients? What are we doing? You know, what were they at liberty to discuss with me?
They're not really allowed, yeah, because you're not really allowed to be involved.
I'm not in the business, right? So then when it got to September and the kind of reformatting happened of the business, it felt like we were being brought back into the business a little bit more, and then the conversations were, rather than, you know, what did you do today? What's the golf like? To more coming back into trading. But again, it's logged in Monday morning and suddenly go through emails again and looking at things, and then to have that taken away from you, it's hard. It really, really is.
Because a lot of these decisions, Lisa, they have, I mean, you can sort of see why, but they've been so last minute, and it's like you plan for something and you tell people something that's happening, the workforce, and then you have to kind of do a U-turn. I mean, that must be particularly hard if you're running a business.
It is, and I don't think I've ever used the word pivot so much in my life ever. But I think there's a train of thought that you think the government believe that what they're doing is because they're looking at it from an agile perspective, and then there's another train of thought that thinks actually it's because it's just chaos management. So I think for me, it's just, you know, it's about keeping a calm head, and also there's certain, you know, you can have an announcement, but then you don't have the granularity of the policy detail until some days afterwards. Okay. So actually, it's just right, absorb it.
But do you get loads of people emailing you going, what's happening? What's happening?
Yeah. The HR inbox is, you know, is obliterated when you get an announcement on a Saturday evening. Yeah. And actually all that's been announced is, right, JSS is stopping, and actually you move into furlough. But still yet, there's still granular detail on the existing furlough scheme that's due out, I think it's on the 11th. So, you know, it's, you have to navigate the business for a period of time where actually you don't know all of the answers. And even when you look externally and try and seek advice, you know, the advice is actually we don't know as yet. So, you know, we're still kind of figuring that out. So, so yeah, but I think what has changed, I've found, is whereas before it looked like organisations were chaotic in their dealings with it, I think now actually at large people can see that actually businesses are only working with the information that they've got, and actually it's the government that's coming across as chaotic, and we're just having to absorb and then work with it. But to Gary's point earlier, I think what's really critical for all of us is that to have some kind of exit strategy, because, you know, furlough's great, and it means that a high proportion of businesses, their highest cost will undoubtedly be their people cost. So furlough helps you manage that. So that's good. But actually, unless we get everything else sorted, you know, removal of blanket bans, the testing system in place, all of that kind of stuff, furlough only addresses one part of the problem.
So this is
and we don't have an excess strategy.
Yeah. So this is what you meant at the start when you said this can't be a mask for all the other issues that need addressing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you feel more confident that, I mean, obviously we were all selling Canaries, Maldives, you know, you would have been involved in that yourselves, you know, that must have been a glimmer of hope. I mean, it did feel more positive, and we were getting figures in where agents were saying, oh, we've sold loads, we've had loads today. And so, you know, that's the problem, isn't it? These corridors are still going to be a problem. Even if we come out of lockdown, we've still got all these quarantines. We're still going, and then Gary, your guys must be now refunding again for the couple of weeks of Canaries and Maldives they were selling. So do you feel that is being addressed? Sorry, I'll go to Lisa and then come to Gary. So do you think that, you know, I know you're saying
On a positive, I would say that yeah, as soon as a corridor appears, then it's like somebody's turned the tap on. So, but then equally, something like this happens, and then the tap's switched off immediately, and then you are into that process of just refunding. And we're having internal conversations about, okay, do we just not take, there's very little demand there at the moment anyway, but do we just take a call and say, right, no more bookings that to depart before the 31st of March, because you just are in this never ending cycle of booking and rebooking and booking and rebooking and cancelling and rebooking.
And that's what Gary said he's advising some people to do.
And actually we were, you know, I've been on calls with Australia and New Zealand this week, and just to find out what their plans are, because, you know, it's, but they themselves are still working with an element of uncertainty. So, you know, with some optimism, they're looking at reopening of Q4 next year for Australia, but they just don't know. So that's the tough bit for a business, because if you take bookings and you end up cancelling and refunding them, you still need the workforce to be able to undertake that task. So, you know, you could be causing yourself a greater problem by turning on the tap and taking bookings to only then have to refund them.
So when do you make that decision?
You're making it on a daily basis. You're taking these calls on a daily basis, really, Luce, as and however the situation's changing. And look, as you know, salespeople, the salesperson in me doesn't want to turn a booking away, but then the realist in me says, but what's the likelihood of that booking being able to depart? So, you know, we're coming up to Christmas, but there's plenty of people that still want to get away, and that's the thing. So for me, I know we're talking about furlough, but actually the bigger issue is having a fully laid out exit plan of what we're going to do as an industry, and with government support to address all of these FCDO advice and blanket bans and testing. Because unless we've got all of that fully operational, I think we'll just find ourselves in this almost period, like hiatus position, really.
Just a merry-go-round constantly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's presumably something you're all lobbying this travel task force. I mean, and Gary, I know you've been pressuring and putting your case forward. So what's your view?
So I think if I think about our members, you know, our travel agents, tour organisers, tour operators throughout TJ World Trust, all of the membership proposition, you know, we're having those conversations to say, look, you need to have conversations with your customers, you need to be proactive, and you need to be honest. And they're inquiring about a holiday in the middle of a global pandemic. There is huge disruption likely to happen. And what we fundamentally know is the government simply do not want people to travel internationally. They don't want it to happen. Because even if the testing says it's safe, and even if the infection rates statistically aren't happening, it just needs one headline with COVID idiots coming back on an aeroplane from getting drunk in Greece that makes the government look crazy for allowing that to happen when there's people dying in care homes. So that's the reality of what we know. We cannot control that, but we are absolutely right to keep shouting at government to get testing regimes in, to regionalise the risks, to get ourselves ready for when a vaccine does come in. We are not safe. I'll have no certainty until a vaccine. That's just fact. And it doesn't matter whether you sat on furlough or sat off furlough. We are only in control if we have a sustainable industry going forward, and we do not have a sustainable industry without a vaccine. It doesn't matter how good the testing regime is. We go into lockdown, we reduce deaths. We come out of lockdown, it increases. It's unsustainable. So that's the fact we're all working with. And therefore, you know, we're advising members, if you know that and you're prepared to sell a holiday, you have to be honest with your customer. We've had members who said, because we've told them that and they haven't sold a holiday, even when Canaries came around, customers have said thank you, because it would have just been disruption. We're telling members who are putting all the risk on Lisa's business, gold medal or other ATO holders, as a retail agent, don't assume your commission is your commission until you've departed, because you're only putting yourself into more debt. Don't spend it because it's not yours.
Not yours,
because it's so uncertain. Just be honest with yourself, and therefore plan your business and your cash flows around that. The world is fundamentally different, and we only have a chance of sustainable industry when a vaccine arrives.
All right. Well, look, I'm looking at the clock, and I know Gary has got 3 minutes to get to another meeting. So we'll wrap it up there. I'm incredibly grateful for your time, particularly you, Kieran. I really, you know, I'm sure Gary and Lisa will join me. They'll have people in their own teams that are in your situation, and we all just, you know, thank you for being so understanding of this situation. You've been fantastic, and keep tweeting, because we love still reading and hearing about you.
Thank you,
and,
thank you. Just very quickly, I'd
yes.
just like to, you know, say to the business owners that when you guys are deciding who is coming back and over the next 3 or 4 months, to think about the mental health problem and think about the financial problems of obviously your businesses. And Lisa made a great point. Are some businesses kind of peppering over the cracks, or are they just kind of getting the money in? And maybe is it worth the business taking, you know, an employee salary to get them back into the business, maybe when, you know, that might not be a decision that they would have thought a couple of months ago, because, you know, we're excited and we can't wait to get back to work. And I think I echo that from all the other employees that are on furlough at the moment. So I think business owners, while yes, of course, business, the numbers have to make sense as well, but the mental health thing is something we need to consider and when making these decisions.
Really well said.
Can I just follow that up, Kieran, because the mental health of everybody is essential. And I think I can talk to Lisa, who I know from Gold Medal run customer service journeys, and it's all about their people and their teams, and many business owners. The starting point is mental health. That genuinely,
Absolutely.
that is the conversation. The second thing is not just about the furlough team, it's about the team that are working.
Yeah.
It's not just about the team that are working, it's about the conversations with the customers. And for us, it's also about the mental health of our members and the programs, the conversations, the engagements. You know, you talked about what your team's doing, the weekly conversations, the communications, being open. We are obsessing about mental health. And I can't speak for everybody, but I know from our side, it is a huge focus on those conversations to be as kind as possible through the process.
Okay. Guys, what a brilliant webcast. I'm so grateful to all of you. I think it'll be really useful and helpful to anybody else watching this. So to Kieran from icelolly, to Lisa from Dnata Travel Europe, and to Gary from the Travel Network Group, thank you very, very much for your time and your insight.
Thanks, Lucy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.